Hey guys, welcome to a very special episode of the Game Dev Discussion Podcast. Today we've got an Artstation special where we're going to be talking about the upcoming changes that are happening with Artstation. Today we have two people on the podcast. We have Leonard, the CEO of Artstation, and Randall Mackey, the art and design manager for Artstation Learning. How are we doing, guys?
Good.
Excellent. Thanks for having us on.
How are you? Yeah, thanks.
I'm ecstatic. After hearing about the changes that are coming, I'm an excited boy. I'll tell you that right now. So, let's for the people who don't know, who haven't read up on what's coming. This change is coming in the near future, within a week or two. We're introducing Artstation Learning, which is essentially, from what I understand, a tutorial part of Artstation where there'll be series of tutorials covering a variety of art disciplines from 3D to 2D, illustration, 3D modeling, all these kind of stuff, conducted by industry professionals, hosted on Artstation. Am I right so far?
Yep. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. So basically, I mean, you can think of it in short, it's like Netflix for art.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Netflix for art. That's good. That's got a ring to it. You definitely got to put that on like the front page. I don't know if you get copyrighted, but like it's worth it. # worth it. So, Artstation's gone through like a lot of changes over the years, like the years I've been using it anyway. It's become many things to many different people. You know, first and foremost, it's a portfolio and art sharing website, and there's all sorts of things built into that. You know, you've got the website builder, you've now got like marketplace, a blog spot, you know, the storefront, all these kind of things. What led to you guys making the decision that Artstation's next step in its evolution was, right, we need to introduce a learning section to this? How did that come about?
Yeah, I can take that one. So basically, you know, our vision for Artstation, obviously where it began 5 years ago, was very much a portfolio site. And what it's become, as you mentioned, it's become many things to many people. And I think a lot of the feedback that we got from, first of all, like there was always like the vision of that we wanted Artstation to be is an artist advancement platform, and I think that's what was really missing, and that's why I'm personally very excited about Artstation Learning, because then a lot of the changes that we've been making, you know, on the platform are just becoming clearer now. Like the narrative is actually becoming clearer to people, because previously, like people were just treating Artstation as very much an art dumping ground. You know, it's like, okay, I dump my stuff on Artstation. Oh, it's a portfolio, so I'll just dump my stuff here. You know, or as it's you know, and the issue with that as an art dumping ground is like there's many art dumping grounds, as you're aware. I mean, there's Instagram. Instagram's awesome for what it does. I mean, there's many other platforms out there as well for you know, where you can dump your art basically, and artists are very fickle in terms of like running between them, because they're like, oh, you know, Instagram's now killed my you know, like organic reach. Oh my gosh. So, and Artstation's always just held its ground. It's been very, very good and very fair in terms of how it you know, showcases artwork, especially relevant to this industry. And I think what we really needed and what we really saw was an opportunity to go way beyond just being an art, you know, an art community site or an art showcase platform, and into being like the artist advancement platform where people can, and you can see like all the blocks are there now. Everything from, okay, so you're coming in as a, you know, as a fresh artist or a fresh junior artist wanting to get into this industry. With Artstation Learning, you've now got like the full gamut of training that you can get at an extremely affordable price, and you've got the challenges where you can test your skills out and you can get feedback from industry professionals on the challenges, which are free. You know, you've got a job board, you've got the marketplace where you can get more resources, and then obviously you've got all the other stuff as well, like the portfolio hosting and everything else, which and there's recruiters all over Artstation. So it's very, very much become this an advancement platform where we take an artist through their journey, basically.
So you're gonna have artists coming to the platform and seeing cool art, taking part in art challenges, and thinking, right, well, I want to make cool art too. What's the next step? Now the next step's available on Artstation.
But the thing is, we already have a lot of those people on Artstation. Like, there's like, I think a lot of the big feedback that we have from people is that they're too intimidated by Artstation, you know, and they're like, but I'm not pro, I'm not pro enough for ArtStation. You know, and it's like, okay, so we and that kind of like inspired us to be like, okay, you know, there's a lot of people using ArtStation. There's a lot of people who are artists who are just too afraid to use ArtStation. And there's also a lot of people who really genuinely want to improve their art. And want to get into the industry, etc. And so that's why Artstation Learning just made a lot of sense for us to. And also we decided, I think one of the big things we decided as well was to just, rather than making it like a separate product, like we already have the subscriptions on ArtStation, like just build it into the subscription so that we're consistently offering value.
That's interesting you say that. Just so people who don't understand, the subscription at the moment, there's ArtStation Plus and there's ArtStation Pro. I'm right in saying that the ArtStation Plus, that's where the learning stuff's in, all that kind of stuff, and the Pro is only for the, you know, the small perks such as the Pro Analytics, the
marketplace. The marketplace is actually a big one. Yeah. So the way we're gonna split up the subscription plan moving forward. So the problem before was that we had there was the free ArtStation and ArtStation Pro, but then we'd have a lot of people like come to us going, but I'm not Pro.
Yeah.
And so, the badge itself was intimidating, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I'm not pro enough to have a pro badge, you know, kind of thing.
Which when you hear that, it's really funny because it's like, oh, I wouldn't think of that. But then all you have to do is think back a few years to when you were in that position, and it totally makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we decided to kind of divide it up. And so that, and what that means is that, like, when we do, you know, roll out Plus in October, there's going to be, so Plus will be like the most basic premium plan, which pretty much comes with everything that Pro already has, with the exception of the appearing first on searches and the marketplace. Like, you earn extra on the marketplace if you are a Pro user. So what we're doing is that we're making it so that, like, if you're already Pro, like, you're grandfathered in. Like, there's no, you know, like, your price doesn't change, like, you're locked in. So people who got in like at the lowest price it was like 3 years ago or whatever, like they're locked in for life at that price, and they can enjoy all the perks of Pro, you know, moving forward, including ArtStation Plus. We're not raising the price for anybody, but as of October, there will be 2 tiers where it'll be Plus if you want to get Artstation Learning and everything else, like all, you know, your website builder and stuff like that, and your extra, you know, larger uploads for Marmoset Viewer and stuff like that. And then the Pro will be really for the people who are selling on the marketplace or who want to appear first on searches and stuff like that. Yeah.
That actually makes, it's weird though, when you explain it like that makes perfect sense. It's basically the Pro becomes the thing that if you're actually wanting to make a professional living out of, it's beneficial, because the main benefit is the marketplace and the effect that has.
Absolutely. That
only comes into effect if you're a professional.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And basically, and the thing about the marketplace, like, once you are making a certain amount of money, like, on the marketplace, like, it's a no-brainer. Because if you do not upgrade to Pro, like, you're basically leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, coming back to the Artstation Learning, this is a sort of double-barrel question. I think Randall, you're probably going to be able to shed some light on this. How does this get curated? And it comes in 2 parts. How are you going to select the artist who conducts the tutorials, i.e., do they approach you, do you approach them? And also, how do you choose the techniques? Coming from my point of view as a environment artist and a materials artist, you take like 2, you know, experienced materials artists, they have wildly different techniques. But if they're going to be acting on behalf of ArtStation to conduct tutorials, you've sort of got to be selective of what techniques you want teaching. So how do you go about curating them 2 aspects?
So currently, because the library isn't huge yet, right? So we're approaching. I'll answer the first part first. Like, basically, how do we get the instructors? So the first thing we did was we basically sat down and bumped all our heads together and said, who knows who, right? And we created a huge list of people that we all knew personally or had some sort of relationship with in the industry, and we just started emailing those people and reaching out to them directly. You know, friends and close acquaintances, and saying, hey, do you want to come teach classes for Artstation Learning? And then from there, we kind of have conversations with each individual artist, kind of give them a rundown of what we're building and how they can be involved and how it works for them. And then kind of leaving it up to them right now for what they want to teach. kind of what their passion is, kind of what they want to be known for as well, because it's important for us to also be promoting the artists that are teaching for us. Like I tell the artists, we're paying them real money to teach classes, but we're kind of tipping them in exposure, right? We kind of want that effect too, to where there's a benefit for the instructors. So we're kind of letting them choose off the bat. And as far as kind of your second question, I have a massive list of probably about 200 topics that we would like to fill. And we're kind of trying to make sure that it's as balanced as we can up front, right? Across 2D and 3D and different disciplines out there in illustration or foundational things. We want a good breadth of, beginner, intermediate, and advanced courses as well. But to your kind of last thing, like, I'm not really concerned about overlap at all. Like if we have 3 courses on the same topic, there's value there, because if you're like, let's say you're trying to learn how to do spaceship art, right? Like you want to do concept art, like spaceships, right? There isn't enough tutorials in the world for that person that's learning on their own. There isn't enough content for them to consume. They're super hungry. Like I'm a self-taught artist myself. So I think back to myself, I couldn't find enough tutorials or enough videos on the things I wanted to learn. The other benefit comes in that if you watch 3 different tutorial videos on how to create spaceships for entertainment, then there's going to be a lot of similarities, and those similarities kind of then reinforce as important in the viewer's mind, right? If you're learning, you're like, oh, all 3 or all 4 of these guys do the same thing. That must be important. That's not skippable. But then where they're different, then that becomes flavor. And then there's value in each individual course at that point, right? Beyond the other courses, because they're doing something different than the other 3 instructors did. And so, that's kind of the approach and the methodology and the thinking that I have right now, is there isn't enough content for the people that are trying to learn.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. What about, would you be like, you said you have a lot of people you want to have on. You've already like worked out some key instructors. Again, this is a bit of a double barrel question, so it needs unpacking a little bit. But one, are you expecting or ready for people to approach you? Like, for example, if there's someone out there who's either done mentorship in the past, or like they want to be on that, be an instructor, are you prepared for like that sort of influx of people saying, hey, by the way, I'm going to put my hand up and say I can do a tutorial series for you guys? And then the second half of that is, does the selection process get difficult? Because obviously it's a business, so like Artstation is a business, it's a company. Do you have to be selective of who you have conduct and be instructors in terms of their, not reputation, but I know some artists who are amazing but have like 0 experience and no one knows who they are, but they're like incredible artists. Are you gonna have to, early days, almost select the guys with the high profile, because they're the ones people go, oh, like, again, I'm gonna use me as a reference. I look up to the likes of Josh Lynch and Daniel Tiger and these sort of guys, so they're the guys I want to see like material stuff from. I'm not going to be so inclined to go and seek out the guy who no one's ever heard of but is just as good. So is that something you guys have to take into consideration, or is it not even coming to your frame of mind?
It absolutely is coming into our thinking, and I think it's important to have a few of those kind of like leading artists that are well known, just because it brings visibility to to the new product, and it brings some sort of stance to it, right? But at the same token, I think we're really kind of, the majority of what we're targeting is a lot of those like mid to senior level artists that are just working in the trenches in the industry, right? They're really good at what they do, and they have the capability as well to teach and to talk well. Like, that's kind of an important thing. That's why with every instructor, I have a personal chat with, like a personal face-to-face Google meeting or phone call with, because I need to get a sense, like, can you speak, can you teach? Just because you're a good artist doesn't mean that you can convey that information, right? And so that's kind of important. It's very important. But I think there's a lot of information out there from artists that are just working, who aren't maybe this like god tier of artists or like super well known, and they have just as valuable insight and information to share. And so I think it would be foolish to not tap into that, right? So I think we're kind of taking a balanced approach. Like, if we can get a well-known artist like that on board, and we have quite a few that want to teach, that have taught in the past, that you know their names, like, that's awesome. But if we also can get artists that maybe are less well known, but just as good or can teach something else that maybe you wouldn't expect, then that's also valuable to us.
Yeah, keep in mind some people are better at social media than others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have to admit, that's something that, I mean, this is the other thing as well. Is there room for soft skills tutorials? So the only reason I bring this up is Josh Lynch runs a coalition, and he has an amazing mentorship scheme where he has both his material side of stuff, but also like the soft skills. So interviews, conducting yourself in the workplace, building CVs, these sort of things that aren't as easy to access in terms of information and resource. Have you ever considered that as part of the Artstation catalog of tutorials, like people talking how to talk better? Really?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because one of the ways we're really trying to differentiate ourselves is by offering a lot of that content. Because again, like, I'm self-taught. I've been working as a concept artist and illustrator for almost a decade before I came on with Artstation, and that information is hard to find, but it's so critical. And I've also mostly been a freelancer through my career, so getting that information is, the only way I was able to do it was actually just go ask people that I knew directly, and that's always hard to get answers from, right?
Yeah.
So I have a whole block of things that courses that I would like to fill that are on that soft skill side of things, like how do you conduct yourself, how do you do your LinkedIn, how do you promote yourself online, how do you carry yourself when you're at a convention, how do you get your portfolio in front of somebody in person without being rude, right? Like, most ADs out there, senior artists that would be looking at your stuff at like GDC or something, like, they're willing to look at your stuff even away from the booth, right? But again, how do you do that without being obnoxious? How do you do it without burning a bridge? I have classes I would like to have on, like, even crazy things like dealing with toxicity in the workplace. Like, not just like, okay, so kind of the toxicity that we've seen come up in the news a lot with, like, gender issues or stuff like that, like dealing with that stuff, but also like just a toxic team in general, like specifically geared for artists. Like, if you're a young concept artist, or, maybe you're a young texture artist and you go to this team and you have a toxic AD or a toxic senior artist, or, how do you survive that? How do you try to turn the ship around? When's appropriate to stand your ground? And also how to not be the perpetrator of those things, right? Like, I think students kind of come in and they get thrown in as like goldfish into the shark tank, and they're not ready for a lot of these situations that come up. Like, they've maybe been taught about art and they've got the job, but then they don't know how to conduct themselves in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
Or how to survive in the workplace.
I'm glad you touched on the other side of that. So you said how not to be the toxic person. Now, something that, like, I mean, I host a podcast, I love talking. And when I say to people, you need to go and talk to people more and all this sort of stuff, it's like, it's easy for me to say, but these sort of soft skills which people don't come naturally to is really important. But then you mentioning not being the toxic person or not being the instigator or whatever it might be, I think is just as important for people who are the outgoing, talkative, willing to stand their ground. There is a lesson to be learned in terms of, like, not going too far with that, and just hearing you mention it, that's even on your mind, that's a breath of fresh air, because I think there is, like, although it's not easy to find, you hear a lot of people say, go talk to people, do this, all the sort of the fundamental soft skills, but the other end of the spectrum doesn't really get spoken a bit much about, like, don't be, how not to be arrogant, or how not to be rude, or when you're coming across these sort of points. So the fact that you're picking up on that, it's great to hear, because I think it's part of the curriculum of learning that doesn't get spoken about enough. It's all technical, not emotional.
Yeah, it doesn't really get hit on in schools or anywhere else, right? And it almost doesn't even get talked about.
No,
it doesn't. It's just like, you kind of get this one shot to go make a good impression, and I've seen people, make mistakes in that, and then it just like destroys their career before it even gets off the ground. But no one was even courteous enough to show them the grace to say, hey, like, you conducted yourself this way, like, that's not cool, and kind of give them a second chance. I think, like, everyone puts their foot in their mouth for sure, like, I know I have. So so it's kind of just, like, if we can teach that and make classes on that, then we can cover a lot more ground and hit a lot more people.
We're
and kind of
shedding
fill
light.
in some of those gaps.
Yeah, it's shedding light and stuff. So like that's one of the big things of the podcast. It's like just getting people to talk about their experience and shed light on stuff that doesn't get spoken about. For some reason, there's some things which are almost taboo. Like you said, working with toxic teams, like it happens. You won't get through your career without speaking, like, working with someone who you deem toxic, and it might be only you perceive them as toxic, but it's gonna happen. But it almost never gets spoken about in a objective sense. It's always someone flaming, or like it's a very like sensational story. It's never looked at objectively. Right, what went wrong? Where was the breakdown of communication?
Or you just internalize it and think that it was you, and maybe it wasn't. Right? Maybe it was actually a toxic person.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone's going to experience that. I know I have. So on this point too, one of the other things that I'm really pushing instructors to do that are doing other courses that aren't necessarily on the soft skills is when I'm having this conversation, I'm saying, hey, like, go ahead and go on rants in your video. Like, go ahead and get on your soapbox, talk about your experience, talk about your things, like talk about, like pass that knowledge on. Like we can Trojan horse in some of these soft skills in the sexy demos, right? And so let's do that. Like that's really my goal, is to make sure that every course isn't just a time. Like I don't really want any time lapse videos of just speed painting. Like, look how cool I can paint rocks, right? Yeah. Look how cool I can sculpt in ZBrush. It's like actually be teaching the tools, actually be teaching what you're thinking when you're doing it, and then actually be teaching some of those soft skills. Pass your information. Talk about how you got in the industry. Talk about how you got your first job. Talk about how you learned this. Talk about whatever it is that can be beneficial and influential to that next generation of artists coming up.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear, because I think as well that I hope you don't mind me referencing. So I think of where I was self-taught as well. I learned via digital tutors. I didn't spend very long with them because basically everything was very clinical. It was very impersonal, very step by step. And yourself with art, and every artist knows this, it's never that simple. Things break, stuff goes wrong. There's a lot of experimenting. So the fact that you're like encouraging that in the artist to be human, almost, don't be a human being, don't be a robot. That's brilliant, because I remember that's what turned me off from some tutorial websites. Was I wasn't watching an artist, I was watching a guy read off a script, and that was quite frustrating at times.
Yeah, see, like, so an example is I have Ryan Denning. He did 3 videos for us on how to do, spaceship design for entertainment. He's done most of the designs on The Expanse. And, in the first couple minutes of his video, he's actually talking about how to handle yourself in that initial phone call with the producer and AD or director. And like, hey, we want this. He's like, don't be too quiet or they'll think you're not enthusiastic. But also don't dominate the conversation. Like you need to listen to what they're saying and hear what they actually want. Don't be just spitballing your crazy ideas. Like don't be, oh, this is so cool. Like here's what we should do, right? Like, but you also want to be enthusiastic. And he's talking about those little things. And it's just like listening to that, I was like, yes, thank you. Like this is what we want. This is what we want for Artstation Learning on all the courses, is to cover a lot of this kind of soft information that can actually be super helpful and help a lot of people's careers.
So, just talking about like you mentioned some artists you've already got down to work with you guys. I'm asking this question because I think it's something that people using the software, using the platform, will be curious about. And it's probably early days to be sort of talking about it, but I'm just curious to see where your heads are with it at the moment. Have you put any thought into collaborating or working with or incorporating mentorships? So I'm a big fan of that as a medium at the moment because, this traditional education at universities and all this sort of stuff. As someone who's self-taught, I see the mentorships and I'm like, okay, you could go have an industry professional, have one-to-ones with you and, teach you what you need to be taught.
Yep.
Do you think there's room for that in Artstation?
Yeah, we are thinking.
Yeah, we've discussed this a lot.
We've discussed this a lot. Yeah, it's come up because I think what we wanted to do was to move in on the Artstation Learning first, and then work on the mentorships second. So yeah, mentorships will likely. Yeah, I don't know when we'll be able to do that, but it is definitely on our radar, and it's something that we're looking at, and it's a logical next evolution of Artstation Learning.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's important to me, like you said, being self-taught, and it's been brought up by other instructors. And without sharing too much of what we've talked about, I think, addressing scalability is our biggest concern. because Artstation has a lot of users. So how do we provide mentorships to?
Yes, I was just about to say, what's with what you can say. I know there's some things you can't talk about, but what was some of like the speed bumps or concerns? So scalability is an obvious one. It's something I thought about when I first thought of the idea of like collaborative mentorships. I was like, that doesn't scale really. So is there any other concerns you've thought about when you're like, okay, how do we tackle mentorships? Is there anything else that's come to mind?
I'll let you handle this one, Leo.
well, mentorships are great. Yeah, I mean, the scalability part is definitely, it's all related. It is related to scalability, because then there's also issues like like availability of the mentors themselves, because a lot of them are working. The cost also is related to scale as an issue as well, because mentorships obviously are more expensive. Like people have to be spending hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars potentially over time. And what we wanted, like with Artstation Learning, what we really wanted was just to be like, okay, like let's just build it into the subscription and make it the most accessible resource that you could possibly get in this industry. And it is priced very aggressively compared to pretty much all the other learning subscription platforms that are available.
I'm going to throw one thing out there, and I'm not asking you guys to comment on it. Is when I was thinking about the mentorships, I was like I said, the main issue is scalability, and me going off one of my random thoughts and tangents is I could imagine almost how to best describe it, lecture, I suppose, like classrooms. So rather than having 1-to-1s, it becomes 1-to-20s, 1-to-30s, 50s, 100s, 200s. I don't know, like. Yep. That's where I don't expect you guys to sort of, I know you can't, if you have already thought about it or you can't comment on it, that's where my head went when I was thinking about mentorships and how is it actually feasible in the scalability part of it. That's where my head went, was like group sessions rather than one-to-ones.
Yeah, something that we'll be thinking about definitely in the months ahead.
So I want to just sort of draw a line here. I would like to talk about, so usually with a podcast what we do is it's a quite broad topics we talk about. We've covered Artstation Learning quite a bit. If you guys are cool, I'd like to talk a bit about like Artstation as a broader platform, some of the stuff you've done recently, and sort of maybe a bit of not a history lesson, but the development cycle. So one of the most recent things you guys have done was the removal of the your cumulative likes and views.
The cumulative likes and views count.
So that's a huge
like, social. Sense now?
Well, that for me was like, that's a social responsibility type thing. And it cured one of my. So I don't know whether you guys have spoke about this internally. One of my issues, and I use issues very lightly. It's not really an issue with Artstation, but it treads a line where it can quickly become a social media. You get that sort of the whole. You got to get clicks, and certain things do well on Artstation, and I'm a victim of this. Like for example, map balls do really well on Artstation. Oh, I should make more map balls because that does well, and you get caught in this like Instagram followers and likes type thing. And that change you guys made was, at first I was a bit sort of taken aback by it because I was like, this is odd. But then when I actually sat and thought about it, I was like, wow, this is really good. How did you guys get to that? Like, how did you guys internally go, we need to address this? Because you're in a bubble almost compared to like how the artists interact with the platform.
Well, it's tricky as well because I think what's tricky is that from our vantage point, like we see a lot more and we see like a much larger picture, including where the platform is headed. And that's kind of why I asked like a bit earlier, like, does it make sense now? Like in this grand scheme of things, now that you can see the narrative, like with Artstation Learning and with Artstation becoming it has been moving towards an artist advancement platform for some time now, but a lot of artists haven't caught on to that yet, right? And so with that in mind, does it make sense now? Because you have a bunch of, a large incoming group of artists every year, basically, coming into the industry and seeing these cumulative likes counts that were completely grindable. That was the issue. It was just completely grindable. You could sit there and just upload map balls, and you could just amasses huge numbers and everything, and it meant nothing except just your ego, because it had no functionality apart from just showing up on there, and it would cause all kinds of issues. Like we would constantly get support requests from people being like, hey, like I don't like ArtStation, or I don't like it, like why is it that this person is like I post good art, why do I have less likes than this other person who just posts a bunch of matte balls and guns? Like, what's the issue? So, and I mean, so we had to strive towards something, building, like you said, it was a combination of a lot of things, including obviously social responsibility, etc. But at the end of the day, really, like what we wanted was to build a friendlier environment that was less about hey, why does this person have more likes than me, or why does this person have more views than me, kind of thing.
Do you have to tread that line though, where like, and I'm sorry, I've got to keep using this as my point of reference because it's my interaction with ArtStation, but I don't look at the likes of Josh Lynch or Ben Wilson. They have more likes because they've been doing it for longer and their quality is higher. How do you counteract that? Because like, say for example, someone has 10,000 followers, when they post a piece of work, they're going to get 10,000 notifications, whereas someone else who has like 800 followers, they post, they get 800. Does that sort of blur the lines between where the issues may or may not lie, do you think?
It could, like, and that's stuff that it does keep us awake, because that's a lot of the social interaction model, and the way that that works is very much something that we strive to. We try to design a very fair system. Like, for example, the way that stuff trends, for example, is the way that we work is, I feel, is much better than other platforms. Like, in other platforms now have gotten to a point where there's basically no like on the larger platforms now, like we find there's absolutely no organic reach unless you already have that following, have a way to reach that following outside of the platform, or you pay money. Whereas with ArtStation, if your art is good and it is discovered by some artists who are already on the platform, who give it a thumbs up, like it will find its way onto the front page.
So
and
could you explain that? Could you? So I know that. So I was literally just in a Discord conversation with the DiNusty guys, about 8 of us, and we were just like browsing ArtStation and just showing links and like, this is sick, this isn't. And this came up and it surprised me because we're all experienced artists. Can you just categorically finalize this? How is the community tab decided? How is the trending tab decided? How is the picks decided? And just with that, the community tab, you got like the 2x2 tiles.
And another thing and another thing that I will add as well is that a lot of that stuff is under construction. So like you probably will want to have another podcast with us, like
you said it. I'm game.
At some point, like at some point, like because we look at that stuff and we're like, we're not satisfied. We're not satisfied with it either. Like a lot of the issues that we had earlier in the year with ArtStation, and like occasionally like things just blow up on the internet. It's like, oh my god, ArtStation is shit, and we take that stuff very seriously, and we look at it and we're like, okay, why is it shit? Why people? And like I think a lot of that does come from the single trending wall that we have, and and it's just because it's something like we've been working on a lot of other things, and having a single trending wall where that pretty much shows like I would say a snapshot of what everybody using ArtStation is is voting for. I would say it becomes tricky, right? Whereas having a more personalized or a more categorized kind of front page is probably a better way to go. Like we have categories, but a lot of people just miss it. They don't see the categories, and this is all stuff that we're working on and we validated with a lot of users and everything, and we have a plan for it. We just have to get through this launch of Artstation Learning first, and there's a bunch of other steps that we have to go through, including much better categorization, which we have prepared for already, that we're gonna be working on in the next few months. But okay, how it works is basically the trending part is I think most people want to know how things are trending. Like the main thing about the trending is based on it used to be based on a very simple algorithm of the number of likes over time. But then the issue became that was easily gameable as well. And so what we did was we changed it so that that people who had more followers had more influence. So if you got liked by somebody who had a lot of followers, that would have much more weight than just a fan, who has no who's just passing through. And that really helped, because that what ended up happening is that you would get like really, really fantastic works that from people who were not, who didn't have a very large following, but just somebody, an established artist on the platform looked at their work and said, hey, this is awesome. Like, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, boom. And it shows up on the, it floats to the top of trending. Pix is still done manually. And so, that's something that is totally not scalable. And in the future, I want to get rid of it. And I'm sure everybody will.
Man, Pix is like a rite of passage about like, you get someone Pix. I know I've only had one piece on there, and you're literally like, guys, God, everybody, Twitter. Guess what? I got a fucking pick.
It's not scalable. Like, the issue with Pix is like like if we want to become like a much larger platform, and it's just not, there's no way that we could go through every combination of category out there and this is a pick, this isn't, and it becomes very tricky as well. It's been a bane of our existence for quite some time. The community tab is really just at the moment it's like just like, I think, I'm not entirely sure, it is randomized, and it takes a subset of what is trending and then it randomizes it, and then it sorts it. So that's kind of how it works. So I just said a lot of controversial things, and I'm sure that a lot of people will be like, "Oh my God, like these changes are coming,"
If I can touch on the categorization though a little bit and kind of tie it to Artstation Learning, I think this is kind of one of the important points of Artstation Learning too.
Totally.
And kind of one of the things where Artstation wants to head in the future is Artstation is very successful at the game and film side of things, obviously, right? But there's also this kind of sense of elitism that comes with that. And we're underserving a lot of communities that make amazing art in different fields out there. Like if you look at illustration or, the fantasy side of things, what I call the Aluxcon / like Spectrum crowd, children's book illustration, comic book artists, traditional sculptors, traditional painters, like, people that make like creature effects for Hollywood, like physically make things with their hands. Like, we want those people to have a home on Artstation too. Like, Artstation shouldn't just be game or film Artstation, right? And so that's something that we're super aware of and we've been talking about a lot. And that's kind of part of the thing that the categorization and, the things we're kind of alluding to with the trending wall are part of that. But also Artstation Learning, like covering topics like those, just not just material creation, not just ZBrush sculpting, not just concept art for games, but like getting in and getting some classes on children's book illustration, getting traditional sculpting things and kind of using those instructors as kind of the Pied Pipers for their communities to say, hey, like Artstation is a place for you too. And you can come here and have a community and learn and promote yourself in your field and, really kind of balance out and offer a lot more value and a home for those people as well.
Exactly.
So, kind of just wanted to touch on that because that's really important to me personally, and I think what we want to do on Artstation.
So I would just say, like, there is a lot going on. I would not take what you see on Artstation right now, like as far as how the walls are and the way the art is categorized as it's by no means final, because it is all work in progress. And the main thing is that Artstation Learning is just a massive piece in our narrative. And I hope that the wider community, and I'm glad to be able to be on this podcast and just, what I'm hoping for is that the wider community now, can, it makes sense. It's like, oh wow, okay, now I'm starting to see this picture. Artstation is not just a place to dump my artwork. It's actually like a full-blown, it's the artist advancement platform that I've been looking for all this time.
No, 100% I think people will think that. I'm just curious, have you guys listened to the podcast with Chris Radsby, the senior environment artist from Ubisoft Massive? No, okay, that's fair enough. There's a point which we spoke about Artstation. We're basically talking about what you're on about, the personalization side of stuff and how you view the art. I just want to flow something in front of you guys, and I'm curious to see what your reaction is to it. we were talking about the way likes work. I don't know if you play League of Legends. I'm ashamed to say I've played it in the past. And it had quite a nice thing at the end of games where you could honor your teammates. But it wasn't just a case of pressing like and that's it. The teammate gets honored. You press like and then you get a little radio menu and you had 4 choices. It was like them because of their teamwork, like them because they're friendly, like them because they're good. And it was just sort of like you couldn't just like somebody. You had to put a bit of thought into it. You couldn't, there was a reason to like something. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking of it from an Artstation point of view. So the way I interact with Artstation, for me personally, the super technical, the really detailed technical examples of art don't resonate with me. I don't tend to like that type of stuff. Whereas really expressive, abstract pieces of art and lighting studies, they really resonate with me. And I was thinking about the way likes work, and I was like, is there room for something where instead of you just liking a piece, you like and you sort of say why you like it. So you press like and a radio menu. This is probably more of a mobile UI type thing because I'm a mobile background in mobile UI. This is why I think I like this idea. But it's you press like and you say why you liked it. Say for example, I keep liking stuff because it's, I don't know, we'll use the quote beautiful. So there's beautiful, technical, cool. I don't know. 4 options. But as I keep liking stuff because it's say beautiful or say because technical, my feed shows more stuff as liked because it's technical, and then your sort of feed becomes tailored to what you like.
Yep.
Now, my only concern when me and Chris spoke about this was you could end up putting yourself into a bubble in terms of my feed is nothing but
yes,
the stuff I like, and I never get to experience the rest of Artstation.
Yeah, this is very, very tricky. I mean, okay, I love so basically. And literally for the last 18 months now, I've been discussing these kinds of things with the advisory council and chatting with a lot of artists about it. Now, one thing that's very, very interesting, I will just say about the echo chamber. The echo chamber, right? Nobody likes the idea of being in an echo chamber, but when you put somebody in one, they just are happier. Mm. It's philosophically that's being seen to be true. So the issue with art is when you tell somebody, "Oh, I'm gonna personalize this for you," artists are rejecting it, going, "No, I don't want it personalized. I want to see everything." But then they complain is when you just see a boob on the front page, "Oh my God, there's a boob there. There should be a boob," It's so that there's
or you're an illustrator and you see matte balls and you're like, "Why is Artstation just covered in matte balls?"
Oh my gosh, exactly. So it's very tricky. Those philosophical issues are, and it runs extremely deep, into the human psychology of things. So some basic things about the like. In general, me personally, right? I do like the idea of having likes not be something that is just a straight line measure. Mm-hmm. When I say a straight line measure, it gets very tricky because somebody is "Hey, I got 50 likes and this other piece that and why is it that this person got 200 likes and I only got 50 likes?" So the straight line measure system, it's very tricky. But then when you actually talk to artists, they all start complaining at each other and getting very feisty about the likes count and saying, "No, please, you get everything from, no, please don't change it. Yes, burn it all to the ground. Don't have any likes, So it's very interesting. Yep.
I just see it from the point of view of it's more, I like the idea of getting the person to think about why they're liking something. You know what I mean? That's why I like it, because that's why I like the League of Legends thing. When I first saw it, I was like, why? I couldn't just honor the player. I had to make a decision why I was honoring them, and it ended up I ended up going to an echo chamber sort of thing, and I was happy for it because I was basically only honoring players who were friendly. I was a very talkative player. I like to talk, obviously, with a podcast, and it meant that when I was queuing in games, I was going against more and more people who were talkative and communicating and friendly. And
that's really interesting.
And I just like the idea of I can't, as an artist, just spam all the map balls. I have to say why I like the map ball. So I like it because it's a really good technical experiment, or I really like it because it's really unique.
Yeah,
because that's a hard thing. Unique.
I think it could be a very interesting experiment. I'd be up for experimenting something like that. And then it also has to be weighed with like some of the issues with just user experience, right? Because if you make something that is too hard for people to use, when I say too hard, I mean like that extra click where they actually have to think about it is actually too hard. Then there's less likes there's less reactions overall. And when there's less reactions overall, artists complain because they're like, well, I posted my stuff on Instagram and I got 200 likes, and I posted my stuff on Artstation and I only got 150. So therefore Instagram must be better, and we get those kinds of comments as well.
Do you really get that? Do you get people? So I'm very surprised to hear that you get people compare Instagram
100%.
You really get people compare Instagram and Artstation?
Yes.
Really? That's very interesting. I'm surprised by that. Artists.
It doesn't matter that there are gazillion bots on Instagram. It's like, because when you get a notification on Instagram that somebody followed you, and it doesn't even matter whether it's from a bot, like you get that endorphin release in your brain. All right. Yeah. And so, we're fighting against a social addiction platform, basically. And it's very challenging.
And one of the things I think too that I like to caveat and tell people is that, when I'm talking to, again, probably more junior artists who will message me and, talk about stuff. I'm like, oh, Artstation. They're like, oh, well, I get way more followers on Instagram and likes on Instagram. I'm like, yeah, but 50 likes on Artstation one of those likes can actually equal real money. Right. Whereas the likelihood of that on Instagram is almost zero.
Well, to be fair, Instagram does have I have a different. So I use both platforms, and I post my art on both platforms, and I get Instagram say I get 400 likes on a mat ball, and on Artstation I only get 150. That 150 I don't know why, and this is I don't observe Instagram enough because I like to watch how these sort of social platforms play out. But Instagram, I don't know why the like doesn't feel like it means as much. When I get a like on Artstation, I feel like an artist, a professional, has liked my work. Whereas Instagram, I feel like it's a random stranger.
Exactly. That's my point.
There's a lot of random stuff on Instagram. I mean, I've had dentists like my, like my woodworking is great.
That woodwork is sick though. It's sick.
Yeah. Or a lot of people wanting to, just wanting me to follow them back, and just liking my stuff purposely, and it's okay.
It gets a bit circle jerky a little bit then, doesn't it?
I think, but that's also why you can see the broader context of Artstation. We can't just be an alternative to Instagram. We have to be a lot more than that and be that artist advancement platform.
Do you guys have? So again, there's another idea, but have you guys put much thought into animators? Now, the reason I ask is because
video. We need to make video.
Well, GIF support. I can just imagine thumbnails when you hover a thumbnail.
We're working on it.
Oh, okay, fine. I'm going to completely skip this point then, because I know that's something
I've
seen.
No, it's fine. No, it's good to bring up.
Yeah, we do know the pain points. I think the real struggle, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the struggle that we have on Artstation is just that we have so many things to work on. And every time, literally, every time we sit down, we're like, okay, we got to work on this, some other thing blows up and there's some existential crisis that we have to go run and fix right away.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. So the only reason I bring it up is that I basically had a animator on the podcast, Elise, from who works on Warframe.
Yeah, she's cool.
And I made the point that I was like, I don't get it. I don't see much animation. I don't see much VFX on Artstation. And she said, well, actually, you probably do. You just don't click on it because it's either it's a character piece of work, you don't realize it's animation. And I'm like, that's true. But then we go into this was off air. We go into the conversation of but then I could make mat balls even more popular because you hover over a mat ball and you get the circle lighting going on, and there's another mat ball gets a bit stronger.
We also don't have as of right now, and that's something that we are intending to work on. We also don't have very good native video support on our station, in the sense that you have to either upload a GIF, which is not great, or upload the video to another platform like Vimeo or YouTube, and it's too long. So native video is something that is coming to Artstation. It just takes time. And
I know. I have to admit, I've literally just gone through this pain. I'd say 2 hours ago. So I've just posted my recent scene, and I spent an hour rendering, and then 2 hours trying to get my GIF down to under 10 meg to put on Artstation and get the video uploaded to YouTube. So to hear that that's coming, I know there's going to be a ton of artists celebrating right now hearing that. That's amazing to hear. So I just want to talk about one thing. It's a bit heavier. Do you guys think more about the social responsibility side of stuff? Is there potholes, that you are sort of anticipating, aware of, that you want to fix? Like, because you guys are I'll give you guys credit where it's due. You're a very responsible platform. You know, it's well moderated. It's like I said, there's not many bots. You don't get next to any bots. The art stays of a good quality. It's a very friendly place. Is there anywhere you guys are like, okay, we need to make sure we're aware of this and make sure it doesn't like blow up or go wrong, like you did with the cumulative likes? You saw a problem and you're like, this isn't major, but it's a problem with the community at large. Is there more of that sort of stuff you guys are aware of?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, definitely the female ratio thing was something that blew up earlier in the year, and
yep, I was just going to say that.
Yeah,
can you explain that
we are working on?
Because I've not heard of that either. So could you explain that a little bit?
Well, yeah. So what happened was that we ran so last year we ran Artstation masterclasses. We were partnered with Noman, so the first masterclass we had 3 female instructors. The second masterclass we didn't have any and it's just scheduling issues that we had. And then the third one as well, we didn't have any, but it coincided with the Visible Women campaign on Twitter, and that whole thing just blew up in our faces, where everybody was just hating on Artstation because there were no women in the lineup of instructors for the master classes. And yeah, I mean, that was totally our bad. And yeah,
is it your bad? Like, there is a ratio, like there is a discrepancy. There are more male artists in the industry to female, like, and you said yourself it's a scheduling issue.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not good enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So, we have to make a concerted effort to make sure that there is representation, and that's something that we are doing on Artstation Learning.
That's good to know. That's interesting. I'm guessing that ties in. Yeah, so that ties into Artstation Learning. This there's actually I keep coming back to it in my head. My head keeps going back around to the soft skill side of stuff. I'm just thinking, like, there's just so much stuff to talk about with that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see what comes up with that. So, Artstation Learning is the big step. Is Artstation's next big step? Frontiering into that. Anything on the horizon you could talk about? Anything to whet the appetite on top of? I mean, this is already huge. This is going to change a lot of artists' lives, myself included. Is there anything else like on the horizon you've got one eye on?
Yeah, I mean, prints is also something that we're working hard on. So we released prints earlier in the year, and they're doing quite well. Like the thing about what we're trying to do is to make the kind of artwork that we make much more accessible and mainstream, and just the experience that you get when you view like the digital art as a print or as a canvas print, on the wall is just so much different from what you're doing, from just viewing it on a screen or on a mobile phone or whatever. Like, the experience is completely different. Like, even when you see a matte ball as a as a canvas print on the wall, it just evokes a completely different set of emotions. So like, that's kind of, prints is something that's very that we're working hard on, because the first 6 months that we launched prints, it was really about the whole marketplace dynamics and enabling people to be able to sell prints, monetize, get paid, stuff like that. Now, this next step that we're working on right now, actually, by the time this podcast goes live, we will have, like, a lot of the stuff would have gone live already. Like, it's more about the quality of the product itself. So the quality bar is just much higher. Like, the new canvases look amazing. The new art posters look absolutely killer. They're on a satin paper and they look amazing, and they're really reasonably priced as well. And there's more print products that we're working on as well. It's really more about trying to push like the artwork into the mainstream, into the mainstream consumers, and also enabling artists, again, like, just to be able to monetize the work that they're doing.
I'm afraid we're gonna have to wrap up soon, but I do want to bring one thing up. I've been requested. So back when we originally announced that we're gonna have you on the podcast, back before all of this stuff took place, my number one question was to ask you, and I apologise to put you on the spot for this. When is more merch coming? T-shirts, hats, Artstation merch, man.
I'm glad you like them.
Over 200 people asked me about this.
Okay.
And I'm like, yeah.
All right.
So I'm just throwing it out there to you guys. Get the t-shirts on board, man.
All right, I will definitely get that on the roadmap. Yeah. That's really interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to throw that in there because, it's when we first mentioned you, everyone was like, "Ask about the merch. When are t-shirts coming back?" I'm like, "Oh shit, okay, yeah, that's that."
So you want t-shirts? You want caps as well?
Hats, hoodies.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I'll buy all of it, dude. I'm a sucker for merch.
All right.
Nice. So, we've covered a lot of stuff today about the Artstation Learning. Is there anything that I've missed or that we've missed and you'd like to just make people aware of before we wrap up?
I think that's probably enough to digest. I mean, there's a lot there.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and I am sure that once we roll out a lot of these changes, like you'll be seeing more of the narrative play out, over the next 6 months, and yeah, I mean, you'll probably want to do an update again with us.
100%, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be good to have more people on from your team. Like, it's been great, Randall. It's been great having you on as well. Like, just seeing that a different perspective to everything makes it very interesting. Because this is something I'm going to probably do more in future, is having multiple people on to discuss a point. Because it's one thing me and you say having a conversation, or me and Randall have a conversation, but when you two are sort of talking about a point that I raised, like, it's a far more interesting thing to listen to. So yeah, guys, I'd love to have you guys back on, and more of you as well.
Well, thanks for having us.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been awesome, Alex. I really appreciate it. Thanks for giving us the platform to talk about this. And yeah, we're super stoked for it.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Everyone who's listening, once this has gone out, go onto Artstation, check out all the stuff, make sure you get your head wrapped around it. And make sure you support the channel, give it a like, a follow, subscribe, a share, get the channel in front of more eyes and help more people. But we're going to wrap up today. Leonard, Randall, God, thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate this.
Thanks, Alex.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Appreciate it, man.
Out.